Depending on who you talk to, what context you are referring to, or what team you are discussing him being on, Rudy Gobert may have the widest range of value to a viewer of the NBA or to an NBA organization out of any player in the NBA. Well, let's talk about this value, the range of values he has, and how I feel about Rudy Gobert. So let's put it this way, blanket statement of how good Rudy Gobert is. Rudy Gobert is a 2-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA player, 5-time All-Defensive Team, and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's a good player. Evidently, regardless of how you feel about the value of Rudy Gobert is quite good at the game of basketball, specifically from a rim protection and defense as a whole to a point. But primarily, rim protection. Elite rim protector, elite rebounder. Point blank, period. That's Rudy Gobert. However, how much you value those assets, along with his contract, along with the limitations to his game, is what allows the difference and the variation in value. So let's start with discussing the highest value that Rudy Gobert has to anyone or to any organization in the NBA. Then let's discuss the variables to make it bit more interesting when comparing it to other organizations. And so that highest value is his value to the Utah Jazz. The entire defensive system of the Utah Jazz and the entire success of that system is predicated on and around the impact and presence of Rudy Gobert. The perimeter defense of Utah is very poor. Very poor. Their defense operates in a way and is only successful because of Rudy Gobert. Their perimeter defense is funnel everything into Rudy Gobert so that teams cannot get anything easily at the rim. But they don't exactly prioritize keeping a man in front of them or limiting dribble penetration. They just funnel the dribble penetration towards Rudy so that teams don't get easy shots at the bucket because they know that Rudy's either going to get blocks or alter or contest shots or just force guys to not shoot and ultimately change their course of decision and to either pass or change their shot. However, the problem is that although they are the 14th ranked defense with Rudy as a whole on the season, which even still is significantly less and worse than they were last year, they are absurdly poor when Rudy Gobert is not in the lineup. And Rudy Gobert has been quite available this year, but when Rudy Gobert is not in the lineup, the Utah Jazz have had the 30th ranked defensive rating in the NBA. Their system on defense only works and has any level of success due to the fact that Rudy Gobert is there and is such an elite defensive presence in the paint. The Utah Jazz being good on defense is fully reliant on Rudy Gobert. Fully. This is not a playoff team or anywhere near a good playoff team at the very least without Rudy Gobert on the roster. It's simply not. That is the peak value of Rudy Gobert with Utah. That's his peak value. However, his value is nowhere near the same to anyone else, to any other team, compared to his value in Utah. This is mainly because no other team plays defense like Utah do. No other team plays, let's funnel everything to our center and let him do literally everything for our defense. Because that's a pretty reliant defensive system where if someone goes down in common terms and in layman's terms, you're fucked. And so that's why Utah have the 30th ranked defense in the league when Rudy Gobert is not on the floor, because their system is predicated on Rudy. And when he's not there, they're fucked. It's not just there's another center that can do the job. They need an elite rim protector. Don Whiteside is not that. Yeah. They falter. But in other defensive systems, Rudy Gobert is nowhere near as effective when you think about defenses that switch everything or switch some things or play pick and rolls where the big has a heavy hedge and has to go out on the perimeter and hedge up on that screen. Rudy is not as effective there because Rudy is not some elite perimeter defender. He is fine, although he can get burned at times in space when teams play small or have spacing fives that can attack the rim or space the floor a bit, as we have seen at times in the playoffs, specifically against the Clippers last year. But ultimately, Rudy Gobert's strength lies in rebounding and protecting the rim and altering shots. When he doesn't get to do that on defense, he is much less effective. Because throw that in with the fact that his offense is not anything elite. If he's not getting to protect the rim and alter shots at an elite level and he has to be out on the perimeter half the time on defense, his value drops significantly because his skill sets that make him elite are not being used consistently enough for him to be showing that elite impact in the game. That elite level of skill is not being used consistently enough on a play-to-play basis. And so it results in an interesting situation when you throw in the fact that his contract also impacts value. It simply does, because his contract is absurdly higher than pretty much any team other than Utah in the NBA would be willing to pay. When you throw in the fact that he is an elite defensive piece and the reason the Utah Jazz have a good defense, and some people could make the argument the MVP of Utah, although I would disagree, but he is the only reason they have a defense. You throw in that alongside with an okay offense. In terms of his production on the offensive end, it's fine, but it is limited. He's not some amazing post scorer or a spacer or anything alongside that. And you throw in his contract. This is what makes Gobert go from someone who's considered crucial and has extremely high value and is an MVP type candidate, at least at the start of the year he was with Utah, but then can also have value of someone who is simply a very good rim protector, is an average offensive big, and can be liable against certain lineups when defending on the perimeter. Throw that in with his contract, and he becomes not valued at an all-star caliber level, when in Utah, he's probably argued closer to an MVP caliber level as far as the impact on defense. That's the range of values we have for Rudy Gobert. We have ranges of I'm not an all-star and ranges of he's an MVP candidate. That's the range of value for Rudy Gobert. It is absurd how wide of a range different people and organizations could have. Personally, I fall a little bit more in the middle of those ranges. I don't think he's an MVP caliber player, but I also don't think he's not an all-star. But there's my thoughts. I think his value in any trade is much lower than the value and impact he has in Utah. No team is going to give up the assets that Utah feel Rudy Gobert brings to Utah. They'll recognize that as well. They'll ask for more, but they know that they're never going to get the value Rudy Gobert has to their organization in return for Rudy Gobert, because his contract's too big and he just doesn't bring that type of value to any other defensive system. That in mind, though, he is still an all-star, and he's still a defensive player of the year caliber player on any NBA team. That's just the reality of it. But with that in mind, he's still not a great offensive center. He is not anywhere near as elite a defender outside of the paint as he is inside it. And add in the fact that Rudy Gobert's skill set, his elite skill set, is the most common skill set of a center. Also throw in the fact that centers are probably the least valued position in the NBA in terms of high paint. Elite one. Or paying one that isn't an elite offensive center, such as Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and you could argue Karl Anthony Towns. And when I discuss the fact that Rudy Gobert's elite skills are present and they're relatively redundant in the NBA world, you can get a player that does what Rudy Gobert does 60 to 80% as well as far as rim protection and rebounding, which is essentially what Rudy Gobert does at an elite level, for a fraction of what Rudy Gobert makes, which is what makes Rudy Gobert way less valuable because there is so much money attached. Rudy Gobert is making over $40 million a year. And sure, he is an elite rim protector and elite rebounder, but I can get someone who does a not similar level of rebounding and defense, but still a capable amount to an extent where I have a solid defensive center for way less money. Nerlens Noel making under $10 million a year. I would rather that contract on my team from a team building standpoint and the success of my team and my roster than Rudy Gobert, because Nerlens Noel can do some of the things that Rudy Gobert does, not at the same level, but for way less, and still have a very positive impact on my defense. Those deficiencies to Rudy Gobert's game, alongside the fact that his skill sets that are elite are so replaceable to a bit of a lesser extent, but nonetheless replaceable at a much cheaper price in the NBA game, is what makes the value of Rudy Gobert so polarizing, so hard to gauge, have such a wide range. That is my thoughts on the value of Rudy Gobert and his value across the NBA. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you guys want more content like this. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.